All right. Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me and see me. If you want to, go ahead and throw me a comment so that I can make sure that I have good sound and such. Okay. Hopefully we are doing good here. Haven't seen anybody pop up yet. Oh, it says I'm live, so should be good. Yay! All right. So today I want to cover how to make some freehand crochet slippers, kind of using some odds and ends of yarn and basically just your foot. So there really isn't a pattern to this, more as a make it fit your foot kind of method. So you'll need to know single crochet, double crochet, and be a little bit comfortable with working in a round or, things like that. So I guess to start, I will show you this sad little slipper that I made for myself last year. This has been washed and dried like a million times. You can see that it's felted, but it is super comfy. It fits my foot, and I can't find the other one, so who knows? But hopefully we will have a newer looking version of this when we get done. So let's start with some of what you'll need. You can use any size crochet hook, any size yarn. What I'm doing is I want thick slippers, so I'm going to combine and make 2 strands of yarn. So this is a mystery yarn that's been sitting in my stash for a while. I think it might be alpaca, it might be wool. I'm not sure. It might be both. This one is by the Rusted Flamingo. She spun this on her Spin-e-Kube, and it is a wool blend, and it is super squishy. And then I have 2 balls of really skinny mohair that I spun. So that is what I plan on making this out of. Hello, Lisa. Thank you for joining us. And so if I'm trying to do like a double strand, then I'm going to want a pretty big hook. So I would choose something between 5 and 6 millimeters. I'm going to start with the 6 millimeter hook because it's bigger, and see if that works. And if that doesn't work, then I'll just pick a different hook. All right. So on to your foot. So this is my artist's rendition of a foot right here, high-tech drawing. And then here's the other one. So to get this, I basically just traced my foot. I stood there and traced where my foot goes, right? So there's all my toes. And then here, I basically traced, like I put my foot up on my leg and put a notebook under it and traced it. So these are kind of the general, this is the bottom of your foot and this is the side. And so there's some places that you're going to want to measure. So I'm making these for my partner Tim. So first thing I measure is the distance between the pointy part of the big toe and the pointy part of the little toe. And for him, that was about 3.5 inches. And then I want to measure toe to heel. So I pick kind of the furthest part of the toe to the base of the heel, and I got about 10 inches. All right. And then I want to know how much it is to go around kind of that fat part of the foot, like where the tongue of a pair of sneakers would hit. Oh, hello, Sharon. Sharon's my neighbor. Hello, Michelle. Hello, Nancy. Good to see you all on here. Thank you for watching. So the fat part of your foot is what I call it. I'm not entirely sure if it has a name, but that part determines like how big, how many increases you need. So I got that for Tim at being about 11.5 inches. Okay. And then I also kind of want to know like where would be a comfortable spot to like end the slipper. So I have that at about 4 inches high. And then you're going to want to measure one more time around the ankle. And I got that at 11.5 inches. Any questions on like how to measure feet? Like you don't have to be exact. You don't have to have it down to the millimeter. Hello, Kim. Good to hear you on here. Okay. So that is where I'm going to start. And let's see, I'm going to start with some of the orange and I will mix it with the plain kind of tan mohair. So, you know what I forgot? I forgot something to measure with. Oh, no, I didn't. Here it is. So here is my sad little well-used tape measure that gets used for everything. So I'm going to start with just a chain stitch. And I will try to get that where it is, that 3.5 inches. It's really not all that much. It's like maybe 10 stitches most of the time. There we go. Chain stitch. One more should do it. All right. So unstretched, it's about 3.5 inches on my tape measure. And this is your toe. So what we're going to do on the toe piece is you have your chain, and we're going to come in and we're going to do some double crochet stitches the whole way back along that chain. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use the end of the chain to make like a half round, and then we're going to come back the other side and do another half round on the side. All right, so now I lost track of how many stitches that was. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I've got 9 stitches here. I'm going to chain 1 to turn the corner, wrap it around, and I'm doing a double crochet. And for my double crochet, I'm just stabbing it in the loop. I'm not trying to be anything specific or grab a specific thread. There we go. Do, do, do. All right, so now I've reached the very last, or where I started on my chain. So to turn the corner, I don't know exactly how many I need, but I know that if I just keep making double crochets in that very last stitch, that eventually it will kind of lay flat and make kind of the round end that I want it to. So again, I'm just double crocheting in that end stitch, as many times as it takes to get it the whole way around and kind of laying flat again. And this is what I mean by laying flat. I hope you can see that. But when I put enough stitches in here, this end piece is straight up and down from the other side. All right, continuing. I'm going to go back through and grab the other side of the double crochets, or the chain that I did, and I'm double crocheting across. Oops. All right, so now I've got to find my last stitch. Here it is. And it looks like I'm right almost there. So once I get to the last stitch in the chain where I turned it, I can go ahead and just keep doing the double crochets until it circles around enough to meet up and lay flat with the end. All right, and then I'm just going to join with a slip stitch. And I like to give it a good tug and yank it around a little bit and just kind of shape it so that you now have this kind of, it looks like a little roundy sausage thing. So that's pretty much the toe. And then I need to make one to match. But in order to do that, I have to cut the yarn. I can make the other one. So I'm not hiding tails. We can do that later, or work them in as we go. But there is one little sausage, and it said that it was at what, 9 stitches, I believe. So we make this for both feet. I like to make them for both feet at the same time because then I don't have to remember how I did the first one. I do it in little tiny pieces at a time. So I can remember 9 long enough to get through that and make the other one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's my 9 stitches. 1 to turn the corner, double crochet across. Oh, it's a double crochet. I should have done 2 to turn the corner. That'll fix it. That might be why the other one was a little lumpy. 2. All right, so I've made it to that last stitch in my original chain. So on that stitch, I'm just going to keep crocheting in the same spot until it makes kind of a half moon on the end. and you want it to lay flat as possible when it makes that half moon. Oh, looks like we've got a few more people. Hello, hello. We've got California, Washington, Georgia, Kansas. I love it. Thank you for joining me on this Saturday morning. Okay, so I have gotten this where it's laying flat, made that little half moon shape that we want. And then I'm going to keep going across like we did before till we get to the other end. And the nice thing about using 2 strands of yarn is it makes a really thick slipper. So crochet slippers do wear out. They get a little holey after a while. But if you felt them by wearing them and washing them frequently, they live a lot longer. All right. So this is our last stitch. Oh, I think I missed it, but oh well. We'll just keep using this one. And these are good projects for like thick and thin yarn, yarn that, you know, doesn't match anything else, lumpy yarn. Just about anything. Now, thin yarn, I don't recommend as much unless you plan on like just wearing your slippers in bed and not actually walking on them. All right, so 2 sausages. And this is this part of the toe right here. Left and right. You can lay them on top of each other. They're not exactly the same size, but they're pretty close. So there's our toe. The next thing that we're going to do is we're just going to start making a bowl, I guess is the best way to put it. So I'm going to come in here, and everywhere that there's a stitch around here, I'm just going to start a single row of either single or double crochets and go the whole way around. And we're going to repeat that until we get about from here to where we measured their foot. And that is not a measurement that I got. Ooh. So if their whole foot is 10 inches, I'm going to say this is going to be from here to here, probably going to be about 4.5 inches. And you can always like put it on somebody's foot and check. All right. So now I'm going to switch colors. I'm going to switch to the green, and I'm going to cross that with this black and white mohair that I've got. All right. And you can start anywhere. Doesn't really matter, I don't think. And the main point is that you're going to want to do like 1 stitch in each previous stitch. So the way that I'm crocheting these is I'm not trying to get into the loop. Like there's the front loop. Let's see if I can. There's like the front loops, the back loops, and then there's the space in between. For these things, I like using the space in between the stitches. I think it just makes them a little thicker and a little easier to follow. So I chained 2 to start my double crochet, and now I'm going in between each stitch with a double crochet. Oh, so this yarn ball has like 15 different ends. That might be why it was like hiding in the bottom of the box. So it looks like maybe somebody took something apart and then like tried to turn it into one ball of yarn. So this one should be fun to work with. I'll probably have like 50 knots in this thing. Do you have, you're right, I had a mouse. Here it is. So Kim has a cool question. Do you have to break the yarn or can you make the slippers in one piece? Yeah, you can make this in one piece. I always end up with little tiny bits of yarn. Um, so like I like doing stripes and patterns and stuff like that. But yeah, you can do this pretty much all in one piece. There's a couple of parts we'll get to later on where you do have to stop and start again to make it kind of the right shape. So here around my my little curly end piece, I'm just putting one stitch in between each of the existing stitches. And that is going to cause your piece to cup a little bit, and you want it to. So this is the cozy little space that's going to keep your toes like super, super warm. All right. Oh, well, so what has happened here is once again my trusty green mystery yarn has fallen apart. This was given to me with a bunch of um, knitting machines, and I've had this forever. And like I said, I have no idea about its origin, so definitely mystery yarn. Do, do, do. It's okay. I think we can make it the whole way around. I think I should have checked that ball of yarn before I jumped on using it for this project. But it was such a pretty green, and Tim likes green, so he's stuck with it now. Right at the end. Oops. There we go. And this is not a exercise in perfection. So if you are a person where it really bothers you to have something that's just a little bit off or crooked or something like that, you know, there are patterns out there for slippers. I personally don't have enough patience to follow patterns, so I just shoot for making little sausage bowls for my feet. So you can see it kind of has a square toe effect to it, but that gives you lots and lots of room for your feet. Okay, and then what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to repeat it on this one, and then you don't have to jump immediately from one to the other each row. So you can just keep going until you get it about that 4.5 inches where it's just kind of brushing the top of your foot here. Um, and do that on both sides. But my intention is to switch colors frequently. And yeah. It is kind of nice though that like, WAFA calls for volunteers to help do stuff and, show stuff. And they wanted somebody to do like something sock related for October. And I'm like, I can do crochet slippers, they kind of look like socks. Um, but I haven't sat down and crocheted something in a pretty long time. Um, so I do appreciate this as like an opportunity to sit down and make stuff. Sometimes I get busy with like, oh, I got to process fiber, oh, I got to spin stuff. Well, the main goal is we want to make stuff, right? And Tim got slighted on slippers last year. So all the boys got slippers. I got a pair of slippers, and Tim didn't because I ran out. And by that time, it was like we're not going to have that much winter left anyway. So he gets first round this time around. Now my youngest, Philip, he uh, he ended up last year with his slippers. He used them like shoes. I mean, he was out in the snow and the mud, out on the carport, doing stuff, and it's like, hey, um, but one of the benefits of using natural fibers like wool and mohair and such is that they keep your feet warm, like even if they do get wet. Yes, they do make great Christmas presents. And these ones aren't terribly time consuming. Um, you know, the thing I like about crochet is it's all holes. So like you can use big fat stitches and you get the benefit of all that space in between them, and they're still warm and comfy and stretchy. Um, they're enough where like you can wear them out to like go check the mail at the mailbox or stuff like that and not have to worry. Mhm. All right. So now I have 2 toes started. Not too bad. And I'm just going to keep doing the same number of stitches around and around and around until I get to about 4.5 inches. If you go too many rounds, you'll just have elf-toed slippers, which means, like room for kids to grow, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, okay, we may not use this green stuff like the whole way through because it looks like somebody like chopped it, like trying to untangle it or something. I don't know. Got little chunks missing all over. Let's see, what else? We have been shearing the goats over the last month. So we shear them by hand with scissors because it just doesn't make sense to invest in the electric clippers and things like that. And so we finally got them all sheared. But what that means is that I have to use up all of my stash from last shearing, because that's the thing, is you got to get one done before you start on another. And I was really proud because I was able to get the last of that carded last night. And then I can start on the new stuff, which is a lot cleaner and less VM than last shearing. This is going a little faster than I thought. I haven't really ever timed myself doing these, so I think I set this up for like 4 episodes. Um, Use an older staff. New and shiny. Yes, there's always new and shiny, and it is very tempting, very, very tempting. It's like I have. I'm the same way with yarn. If I'm making a new ball of yarn, I want to do something with it right away. And if I don't do something with it right away, it just kind of sits there for a while. But it always seems like when I need a little bit of this or a little bit of that or a certain color, it just magically appears and I can get that done. So I'm just joining this round with a slip stitch. There we go. Sausage number 2. So in between each round, I kind of like to lay it flat. And this is a good judge here as to whether you need to adjust your stitches a little bit. So I said the toe should be 3.5 inches. And as you can see here, we're getting a little closer to 5. That's not terrible. You know, you've got kind of that wide part of the foot. So if we're here, it should be okay. And then we don't want it to go much more than 11.5 inches here. So if you have the flexible tape measure, you can kind of go around. And if you look at that, it's about 12.25. So on the inside part here, it's a little closer to like the 11.5. Okay. So if you're measuring things, keep in mind that you've got an outside diameter and an inside diameter. And the inside diameter is the part where your foot's going to hang in there. All right, so I'm going to keep going with this one. We've managed about 1.5 inches, and we've technically done 3 rounds. So it's 1/2 inch for each round, and we want it to be about 4.5 inches. So we're going to need a total of about 9 rounds. So about 6 more rounds is how I would do that one. Does anybody need me to write that down, or can you kind of get your, I guess, gauge by looking at what you've already done? Oh no, now the end has disappeared. Ah. Look, I wonder if after this, if it won't behave. We'll find out, won't we? This one is a 6mm crochet hook. 6mm. And the size of the yarn, to me, dictates the size of the hook. So if I'm using a 2 strands of yarn, the way I judge it is I want to be able to hook both strands without struggling with it. So if both strands will fit in that little groove of the hook and not uh, spill out past, then I know the hook can grab it and it'll probably be a good size for the yarn. Good question. And yes, I am totally pushing buttons over here on my camera streaming thingy, because it actually has a whole bunch of like cool features, and so I have to play with them. It's like sticking a kid on an elevator. We need to go to the 5th floor. Okay. And they go ahead and mash button 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Does it have a letter size too? It says, does it have a letter size too? It says J10. There we go. And we can get that in the light. J10, 6mm is what that one says. So pretty big hook. Not the biggest one that I've used, but I don't want to feel like I'm crocheting rope either. So yeah, essentially if you've ever made like a bowl hat, crochet wise, it's the same idea. We're just making little crochet bowl hats for our toes. Toe hat. And no, it did it again. Oh well. Um, One of my friends local to the area, um, has been learning how to spin on the drop spindle. And so she started coming over, um, to visit every once in a while, and she brushes out my dog. And I think it's great because not only does the dog get brushed more often, but she's been taking the fiber, and learning to spin with it, which is really cool. Um, but she likes the way his fluff feels, so she wants to try to make stuff out of that. I think that'll be definitely a neat project to get started on. Asking if there's a way to get fancy with live videos from the phone. Okay, I'll tell you what I'm using and all that. So the service that I'm using right now is called StreamYard. So it's like a website that you go to, and you connect it to, all of your Facebook stuff. And then you can send yourself an email, like from the laptop to the phone, with an invite and bring in your phone. So I have the phone up here and the laptop pointed at me. And that way, you can kind of see what I'm doing in both directions. Um, it's not terribly expensive, and there is a free version. But at some point, you do have to kind of upgrade to the paid version. Um, and it's pretty capable. And it looks like it'll publish to like multiple platforms and stuff too. So I used it for, I think this is my second month now, and I'm reasonably impressed with it. So I hope that it uh, continues to amaze me. But yeah, apparently, like, it's set up to where, at least with the laptop, a reasonable distance away, I can read the comments, which is nice. I mean, you'll see me squinting a little bit, but the words are tiny. You can do multiple cameras, and you can do the like screen share thing if you have a document up, which is always nice. So yeah, new toys for sure. And then there was another way that someone did something similar to this with Zoom. So like they had a Zoom account, and with the Zoom account, they were able to uh, like go to the Zoom on their phone and on their laptop. And then they ended up uh, doing a screen share on Facebook of the Zoom show. And that actually worked out pretty good, I thought. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. No, like I do. I've tried purchasing crochet patterns to do stuff, and I never seem to get it right. I don't think I have the patience, or maybe I just aren't not paying enough attention to follow what they're doing and find my place again. Um, so I just kind of started looking at what I was trying to make and getting a general shape. So I started with hats. Hats are easy. Once you get the shape of a hat, you can make round things or bowls. Um, and then, of course, you need to master, a scarf. So I would say start with the scarf. Scarves are squares or rectangle. And then hats are circles that just turn into a bowl because you stopped increasing, basically. And then just kind of, if you understand circles and squares, um, if you picture like your foot, you have not really a circle, but an oblong for your toes. And then this is just basically a hat going round and round and round. It does look like it's getting a little big to me. It looks like it's flaring out. So, not a huge worry on that. I just don't want it to go terribly out of control. So, we're about 4 rounds, I think. 1, 2, 3, yep, 4 rounds. And if you look here, instead of being kind of square, it's starting to go out a little bit. So I'm going to check my measurements at this point and say that is about a little closer to 6 inches across now. And my inside measurement is about 11 and a half. So that's not terrible. It's about where we want to be. It just probably has a lumpy somewhere. All right, so there's that one. Where'd my other sausage go? Ooh. Oh, here it is. It's in my lap. All right. All right. Find my end again. Yeah, I've tried following patterns and they just don't look right, especially if you're working with like hand spun yarn. So unless you are like a master spinner and can just belt out perfect looking yarn, what I find is that my yarn always has spots that are a little thicker or a little thinner, or, generally just want to be problem children. And crochet is awesome because you can kind of work the problem children in. Like this guy, there's a lump right here. So I'm just going to wrap the yarn around it and continue on to the next one. And now that lumpy part is wedged in between two other stitches and it's not as obvious. Or if you get a really thin spot in the yarn, you can just put two stitches in one place and then just slip stitch them together and pretend it's one stitch. So it looks like I might get most of the way through the little toe hats part of this today, which is cool. And then after that, I guess we will start on getting the heel part of it done. I am not going to work on this outside of this tutorial. So I'm doing this the same time next week. It'll just be part 2. And we'll pick up right where we left off. Because right now I think all I can show you at the end of today is going to be little toe hats. I found one of those like memory videos Facebook sends you. Philip was like 6 or 7 and he had been learning how to do single crochet. And so I'd get him started and then he'd take it from there. And I remember at one point he had this thing. He would just make big long chains of single crochet. And then he would take them and thread them in between my cabinets, tie it to the lamp, the chair, and he would make laser mazes out of them. And so, when you're 7 or 8, you can just, twisty bend, get through the laser maze. But me, I can't do that. And I kept breaking stuff. We tried. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. All right. And this is round 3. I think we did 4 rounds on the other one. And if you are using wool or a wool blend and you find that you made the slippers just a little bit too big, you'll be able to shrink them gently, I hope, in the wash. Um, so I always find it's easier to make them a little smaller than it is to make them bigger. I got myself twisted. The goats are very happy this time of year. So here in Clifton, Tennessee, the temperature hasn't been dropping to like terribly cold. It's still quite nice out. But some of the trees are starting to change color. And so we have one big tree out by the goat pen. I mean, correction, they have a forest, but in the one that's like out in the field, it started to turn yellow, and all of the leaves are falling off of it. And we call that sky salad because I have watched the goats. They'll be walking along, looking for stuff to munch on. And then suddenly they will like come to a dead stop right in the middle of the field and stop, and they will pick up specifically like one yellow leaf out of the whole pile of yellow leaves. They will pick up just that one and act like it is the best thing that they have ever eaten in their entire lives. So that's sky salad. And it only happens once a year. But I do feel like we are better prepared for this fall and winter than we were last year. Because this time last year we had just bought this house. And so we were moving and unpacking, and it was just crazy for a while there. So it's kind of nice that we've been able to like start settling into a routine. What kind of tree is it? That's the one I'm not really sure what it is. Um, it's not a maple, it's not a walnut. Um, so I really don't have a clue, but it's just a big old ancient tree um, out on the side. And that's one thing I've been really trying to brush up on is what are some of these different trees, because I don't know. Like I know we have hickory and things like that. There's some that I can recognize, but most of them I have no clue. We have a lot of cedar, and the goats love that during the winter. Like they go and they eat all the bark off of my cedar trees. And it's like, well, that's okay. We needed some cedar poles anyway, I guess. Because once they've eaten all the bark around it, it's dead. Woo! I'm losing balls of yarn. There we go. So Tim's wanting to take our cedars that need to come down because the goats ate them. And he wants to like split them long ways and then like shave them flat with like the draw knife so that he can make like some benches and stuff to put outside. Sounds pretty neat. Um, so there'll probably be pictures when he gets around to doing that. Oh, yay, I think we're getting close to a stopping point here. All right. So far they match. It looks like we're a little bit big in the toes, but that's okay. And yeah, we're at about 2.5 inches or so. So I'd say another round or two. And we have little toe hats. And then next time, so we're starting with the toes. And then we're going to add on the sole part of it. And then we will work on what I'm going to call the heels or the side. And then the last step is the cuff part of it. All right. Any last minute questions on here? Thank you, Luncheon. And thank you to everybody who watched me today. Like I said, I will be on next week, same time, same channel, whole 9 yards. Don't forget the Batmobile. Yeah, I think that's it. I am so glad that you guys were able to join me, and I will see you next week as soon as I figure out how to turn this off. Bye.